So let's kick off. We're 7 minutes, I think, just before 22. Yeah, 38. So we're 8 minutes. We've given everybody 10 minutes to get in, as we normally do. So this is choice module 2, and as happens, folks, there'll always be new people joining. Pumelelo, who's joining, is new at the present moment. So in that case, what I sometimes have to do is just run through a little bit of the background. And this will be specifically for you. I'll go through it quite quickly, but also just for a refresher for everybody else. What are we doing? We're trying to inspire you, bring you to my whole emphasis is inspiration. It's not motivation. You'll know that I feel that there's a difference between the two. It is inspiration. And it's about inspiring you consistently as our future leaders to make better choices and to think about how to make those choices. And this program here is designed for you to just take an hour and a bit out of your day, at least once a week, and just reflect on yourself, on you, not on everything else going on around you, but on you. Because the more reflection you do of yourself, the more ability you start developing your own personal excellence and performance. And the moment you start developing your own personal excellence and performance, you're on the self-mastery road. And self-mastery is key in all elements to our leaders and being in leadership. So as you know, what we've tried to do consistently is to merge entrepreneurs, professionals. You'll see them when we do our events. You'll see them when we do our career podcast. We bring entrepreneurs, professionals, intellectuals. Okay, we haven't brought politicians yet. Eventually we will. And that will give you sort of a 360 view of an expression of what's going on around you. Again, this whole program is designed to make sure that you get a sense of everything that's just outside the classroom and outside that book of chemistry, or also outside that work environment that you might be in. Always consistently trying to give you a bigger picture. So we inspire future leaders, elevate personal excellence, and the merger of the different components. As we say, where do we do this? We do this in organizations right now with entrepreneurs. We do this with learnerships. We do this with schools. We do this with colleges and universities. And currently, we're doing it live and interactive over Zoom. And this is going to be the way we do it in the foreseeable future. Does that mean we won't be having contact at some point? No. It just means that for the foreseeable future, until we've managed to create the kind of environment we need to, this is how we're going to be liaising. We want to build future generations to make informed and considered choices. And we're, interestingly enough, on the subject of choice, about the values that they want to develop as leaders to effect positive change, inspire better choices to build your tomorrow. So we've done preparation 1 and 2. For those of you who are part of that, we've done choice 1. We're about to do choice 2. When we finish choice, we go into dream the plan, then plan the dream, then keep on keeping on, then defining your success. And for those of you who've joined as your first session now, you will jump onto preparation. So welcome, I think specifically Pumelelo for joining this program. I think you're going to find it beneficial and useful as we progress. So just for your information, we're growing quite fast. And what we're doing is that we're finding that we can add on additional elements. Sorry, no, I'm jumping one slide. Before I do that, about the growing and additional programs, let me talk about what also comes hand in hand with what you're paying for, but also what comes hand in hand with the overall value add offering. So all of you are familiar with the core programs, preparation, choice, etc. The slide I showed earlier. Also be familiar with the fact that we also have what we call the Mogul Masterclass. We had our first one a couple of weeks ago, and this one was on social media and personal branding. It was such a hit that we are making it an actual program in itself. I'll come to that in a moment. Then we had our Leadership Masterclass. For those of you who were able to join, fantastic. You heard my wife, who's from the financial sector. And the whole idea of the Mogul, let me go back to the Mogul, is that here we talk about very specific subject matter topics, right? So we look at something in its detail, around a particular area. When we look at the leadership masterclass, we bring in an executive and we have a conversation about a sector. So again, taking you out of whatever environment you're in, whether it's a book, a classroom, a business, or whatever the case may be, to give you now a macro helicopter view of what's going on. We do that with the leadership masterclass. We talked very extensively about the financial services sector, women in COVID, women in the financial service sector, COVID in the financial service sector. And it was actually a very interesting discussion, debate, and we might hit it again because quite a few people, some of you missed it, and I'm sure you want to be part of it. The other thing that we run, and we have one coming on Monday, is our Career Discussion Academy. Our Career Discussion Academy, where we bring in a couple of people from different careers, not just to talk about the careers themselves, but the journey and their experiences, which will add a little bit of flavor to your journeys and your choices and your decisions in terms of the careers and their experiences. And interestingly enough, here it's a juxtaposition between specific careers and people who are in business and leaving their careers and going into business, etc., and how they made their decisions and how they progressed through their processes. And then you'll also find occasionally we will add what we called an elective class, right? So we had an elective class on the 24th called Work Readiness, right? Not part of the core preparation, choice, and all that thing, but an elective, and that was a hit. We also converted that into a program. So here are the programs that we have running now. When we first started, for those of you who started at inception, we just had Value Ed. Now we have Valuepreneur. Valuepreneur talks about business, and it's an overview on business, and we'll give you more details about that when you want it. We have the social media branding, the first one kicking off on Friday. By the way, the programs are separate programs with a different fee to them, okay? So they're not part of the Value Ed, so you'd have to pay additional to these ones. So we've got the overview of Value Ed, social media branding, we've got the Teachers and Educators program, and we've got a Work Readiness program that will be starting sometime this month. I've also got a program that I haven't talked to you guys about, but we'll do so in the future, called Elevate. And Elevate is now for those who want to hear about people in big business, boards, CEOs, executives, that sort of stuff. But that's a story for another day. Right, let's get into our program. So choice, and I'd like to recap choice one. I found it an exciting conversation that we had the last time, and we recapped it again. Well, not recapped it, we repeated it. About 2 weeks after we had it, for those people who missed it, and obviously choice two will repeat it as well later this month for those of who are not are not able to attend today. The recap really is basically coming from this quote: "May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears." And it's a it's a powerful quote from Nelson Mandela. Resonates with me. When we're going through this pandemic, lots of people are making their decisions from fears, from the fear of COVID. Right? How many of those, how many people are making decisions about their hopes during this time? Just think about that as we go through. We then talked about the definition of choice, that the world is full of this options and the different, different things that are there that reflect themselves to you in terms of what you can choose from, some of the decisions that you're going to have to make. And choice is a variety of, a number to choose from, to decide from, to prefer, to select, to pick out, to opt for, to fix on, or to decide on a particular path or direction or intention. So it's a variety of all these things that ultimately at the end of the day are about picking a particular path or a particular direction or a particular intention for yourself. That's this whole construct of this program called choice. And we also talked about the habit of your choices. And most of you, if you look back, will think back to, if it's currently when you are in classrooms, you'll think back to students that you see who are picking a particular path. The bully is always a bully, and he becomes a habit, builds up a habit of being a bully, right? The athlete is always the athlete and builds up a habit of being the athlete. The person who was good at maths and grade 7 is good at maths at grade 12. And when you go past that, people in tertiary, the same habits. But also, when you go past tertiary and you're just living life, I think about people who when I go, when I look at them 20, 30 years later, I think, yes, it's in their 20s and 30s, they're actually literally doing the same thing. And sometimes people pick the harder parts of their life. I'm sure all of us know of people who are just consistently on the wrong road, and they're just making their own life difficult, but they've created a habit of that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a choice. It's the path that they've chosen. And then there are others that you look at and you say, wow, this person is just, they're not completely absolved of difficulties, but their path and the direction that they're going is significantly more, in the sense that they'll get better outcomes from that, and in the decisions that they're making and that they've chosen. So we also said, and it's a powerful statement, difficult to digest, that who we are today is in part because of some of the choices we made yesterday. Now, yes, in all circumstances, we've got the past of ours that wasn't actually, maybe in some cases, anything of our own doing. That's true. That applies to every single human being on this planet. But ultimately, we're still given that God-given element of being able to make choices. And some of the choices that we make, when you're either about to write an exam or you're about to go and make a presentation as a business person, etc., every choice that you've made building up to that, right, is either something that's going to work positively for you or negatively for you. So ultimately, we're consistently making choices. Remember, we talked about the fact that from the moment we are actually capable of, I look at my 6-year-old daughter, etc., constantly making choices, whether to not. And that's a habit that we build up over time, that either influences us and affects us or doesn't. Then we talked about this element of guiding principles, that we need guiding principles to help us. And then I started telling you about some of my guiding principles, right? Some of the guiding principles, 2 of which I had, one at the age of 6, when I was talking about when I was adopted, and then the one that I had when I went to school, which is where I'll pick up from. Okay, so let's start the fresh one now. The module 2. Let's start the bit that talks to moving forward in terms of what we had the discussion on from the last time. And I brought up this picture, and I thought about this literally today. It's something that's always in my mind, but I've never actually put it in a picture, and I thought, let me do that. And I want you to think about this, all of you, regardless of what age you are, I want you to minus 5 years. Where you can, minus 10 years. Where you can, minus 2 sets of 10 years. And where you can, minus 3 sets of 10 years. And what I want you to do that is, there's a question that I normally ask myself. What will Vic in the 50s say if he was able to meet Vic in the 20s about the choices he made? Now, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, that's me graduating at 24. Now, I'm going to answer this question at the end of my presentation. That's me in my 40s, that's me in my 50s. Sorry, I left out the picture of me in my 30s, but I'll put one. But I thought those 2 are quite significant, because there's a lot of things that happened in 16 years between 24 and 40. And then there was a lot of things that happened between 40 and 50, and now I'm 52. So what will Vic say to this young man who I see in the corner here holding his graduation, certificate now? And I'll tell you what I'll say to him. But I want you to also imagine this for yourself. What will you say to your person 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 2 sets of 10 years ago? But I also want you to think about, what will you say to the person who's 10 years ahead of you? What would you want them to say about you? It's important, because it's the same thing that I'm going to do about myself. So this thing about choice, folks, is a really, really interesting one. And I'm just going to pause here for 1 minute, or 2 minutes, just to explain the slide. One of the things that's been gripping me from about the middle of July is this value add business that me and a few of us have started and are running, right? And if I was to tell you, Vic, of 40 years ago, some of the choices that I made, or some of the ambitions or aspirations that I had, was to be doing this. I did not know when I was going to be doing this, but I really wanted to be doing this. I wanted to have the life where I can work from home, I can pick up my daughter from school whenever I want to, and I can be doing something that really drives my passion, that really drives my purpose, that really drives what I believe in. So here we go. I kick off, I leave work in November last year, and I kick off and I start doing this. And COVID comes along, and I have to do a whole lot of sidestepping in March to remodel the business. And then a team of us, we get going and we launch a whole new way of approaching this business of ours in July, with a lot of positivity and a lot of excitement. But what I've realized about myself, probably in the last 2-3 weeks, is that I'm probably beginning to take this a little bit more seriously than I should. And let me explain that. One of the things that you do when you make a decision about something is that you have opportunity cost and opportunity loss. One of the big opportunity costs for me is the fact that I don't have an income coming in every 25th of the month. I used to. I had a job, good job, paid me well. Don't have it coming in every month. So somewhere in the back of my head, I'm always thinking to myself, hey, we've got to be successful, we've got to grow, we've got to build. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because some of you who are going through pressures right now, I know some of you are going through, whether it's matric pressures or whether it's studying pressures, whatever pressures you're going to, there's a pressure point that's coming. And usually it's towards the end of the year. And for those of you who are studying, it's exams. Or for those of you who are in exams, it's currently now. But what happens with a pressure point is that all of a sudden your choices and your decisions become very concrete, right? They become very deliberate. They become very focused, which is great and which is fun. But there's an important part of having to breathe. And the reason why you're having to breathe and the reason why you have to stop for a moment and just allow the entire functionality of your body to start working is that the more tense you become, the more you become anxious. And the more anxious you become, the more you become anxious. So it doesn't serve you to be consistently anxious, assuming that anxiety is going to bring some kind of positive result. No, as a matter of fact, it's the direct opposite. It's when you're in a more relaxed state, are you able to think better, see better, absorb more information, etc. So one of the things I actually said to myself at the beginning of the week with this slide is that, Vic, you're gonna have to have fun. You've wanted this, you want to be here. Most of you, let me just take a guess here. Most of you, if you remember when you were in primary school, you always wanted to be in high school. When you were in high school, you always wanted to be in varsity or tertiary. When you finished that, you always wanted to be working and starting your own business. But all through those things that you've wanted to do, there's always been tension. And sometimes the tension becomes more than the experience of the situation. Is it easy to say, I need to be relaxed coming up to an exam? No, but it's something that you have to choose to decide to do. Athletes, the greatest athletes, if you ask them, what is the thing that you do before the most spectacular event is about to take place? They'll tell you, we relax. We relax. We go into a zone of relaxation. So mine is an ongoing one, and I'm giving you this very specifically because I want to be conscious. One of the choices I have made at 50, so that the guy at 60, when he looks back, says, what decision did you make and how did it help? The conscious decision I have made, the guiding principle I have made now is to say, in everything that I do, I must ensure that Vic, and I'm talking about myself in the third person, is having fun. Is having fun. We can debate later what that means about having fun. So folks, guiding principles. Let me run through these very quickly again for you. And these, I'm going to go forward now. I told you about the early years of my life. I'll tell you about I'll repeat the one about school, where I said to myself, if I fail something once, I'll never fail it again. And I'd been to so many schools by the time I was 16 years old. I promised myself that if I fail something, I wouldn't fail it again. This was a core guiding principle, and I developed this at 16. It was very important to me. I had to repeat my A-levels after dropping 2 streams in my school. One of the things I didn't tell you is that when I was at school, not only did I fail my last year of school, but the system at the school that I was at had a streaming system. So smart kids were in the A stream, slightly smarter kids were in A2 stream, little bit slower kids were in the B stream. When I started at that school, I was in the A1 stream. The following year, I was dropped to the B1. So I wasn't even dropped by one notch, i.e. from A1 to A2. I was dropped from A1 to B1, which meant that I wrote my matric not in 12 years, but in 13 years, because they give you an extra year because you're actually that slow, right? So the reason why I'm telling you that is that there were so many things that happened to Vic between the ages of 16 and 20. So many things that happened to him that could have thrown him and derailed him. But when I look at Vic back at 16, as you should sometimes look at yourself 5 years ago, et cetera, 10 years ago, and in some cases, if you can, 20 years ago, see what that person has gone through to get you to where you are today. Guiding principle number 3 was around about 22 years old. Now remember, I'm going to end with this. Guiding principles are principles that are very specific to you. Remember when we talked in choice 1, you've got to develop guiding principles, but they have to be specific to you. You can't go and pick and copy other people's guiding principles. It has to resonate with you. It has to come from inside to say, this is exactly what I want to do. At 22 years old, I said money is a given and knowledge isn't. Never negotiate money, negotiate the job. And I think I've told some of you that in my entire life, I've never negotiated a salary. Never. Not once. When I walk into a new job, I give them what my old job company payslip was, and they increase it. If they increase it by 50%, whoa. They increase it by 2%, so be it. I do not negotiate that. What I do negotiate is the job, because I wanted to gain a lot of experience in a short space of time, or as short a space of time as possible. So my starting point at 22 was about negotiating the job. And I've worked for fantastic companies. I've worked for Gillette, West Bank, I've worked for BP, I've worked for South African breweries when they were around, which was an amazing company. I've worked for Old Mutual, I've worked for South African Airways in the good old days, back in the early 2000s. And I've worked for blue chip companies like Motorola, where I was managing director. And in none of those did I negotiate that. And that was a guiding principle for me. Again, it talks to what are your guiding principles? Guiding principle that I had at the age of 30, round about 30, what was happening to me by then was that all of a sudden I was being asked to change positions all the time. They would ask me, hey, you know, you were good at this, we want you to now do that. And I'd say, but hang on a second, I've just started this. Why are you moving me to somewhere else? And most of the time it was a promotion. Most of the time I rose up the ranks in different companies very quickly. But I made this decision and stuck to it. Most people didn't understand it, but it's fair. It was a guiding principle for me. It resonated with me. And at that time, it was very important to me. And I made the decision that I would not accept a position of CEO or director until I was 40. And by that stage, before 40, between my 30 and 40s, I'd been offered 3 CEO positions, all of which I declined. And the reason why is because for me, gaining experience was important. I wanted to find myself rubbing up with the right kind of people, absorbing the right kind of information. And at the time, I was doing a lot of reading. And to this day, I always thank myself for that decision, because when I became CEO, I didn't have to learn on the job. I actually was able to implement all the stuff, and I became CEO, managing director of Motorola. Can't remember how old I was. I think I was probably about 42 or 43 when that position was offered to me. My philosophy was that there's plenty of time, but timing is everything. So remember to be true and honest about what you're ready for and when you're ready for it. That's an important thing. You guys see a lot of people, particularly our politicians, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing how to run the country. There's a lot of it, not just politicians, it's in business as well. And that really comes from people who've actually jumped several steps ahead of their actual experience or their timing for a particular position and a particular time. So sorry about that, let me go back. Those are the ones that I'm going to give you about me, and they take you to about the age of, what did I say? Let me just go back, 30 years old. I've got others, but we'll talk about those some other time. So what do guiding principles do? They help you make decisions from the choices you have. Once I made the guiding principle decision about not wanting to be a CEO until I was 40, When they offered it to me, it wasn't too hard to say no because that was my guiding principle. When I made the guiding principle decision about money, when I looked at my 3% increase from one job to the next and wanted to actually tear my hair out, I knew that I'd made the decision about my guiding principle, so I wasn't going to tear my hair out. When they offered me jobs that didn't align with the kind of position I wanted, that was a different debate, because that's where I went in to negotiate. So they're important because these choices are going to come to you and you're going to have something to hold on to. Otherwise, you're going to make the decision at that moment, at that time. These guiding principles are very personal to you. You need to be sincere and they need to be yours only. And they only need to be true to you. Some people won't understand them. You can imagine people offering me a CEO position and me saying, no, thank you. People didn't understand. I said, I can't explain it to you. I won't be able to explain it to you. The answer is no. It's how it resonates with me. So it's important for you, and particularly those of you on the line who are women today, who are the backbone, I believe, of the fabric of society. When you're actually making decisions, have a principle that underlines that decision. Because otherwise, if you don't, there will be some decisions that you may come to bite later on in your life. Develop guiding principles. So these guiding principles, they develop over time as you get older and wiser. I've showed you the ones over my stages. So I actually have got them all the way up until I'm 50. I actually showed you the one that has come up as a particular guiding principle for me now. This with leadership is people that does not you the most I am going to show you will be tempted by others. Remember this, each person has a light. Be aware of the light amongst all the light that shines. Our collective light lights the path, but does not light your way. Trust that your light will guide your destiny. Your thinking, your instincts, your guiding principles, your value system will light the direction in which you want to go. That's very important. If you don't have a solid foundation, regarding a sense of self, you will base your choices on what other people say and do. You will follow their light. It is beautiful for me to be offered a position in whatever case I may be offered with regards to companies, CEO, whatever, right? But that's their requirement. Yes, they're offering it to you, but it is their requirement needing you to go and fulfill a position for them. The question you need to ask yourself, which is this question, is that, is this your light or my light that's shining? What is my guiding principle in this? What do I want? What do I need? I know what you need. I know what you're asking me to do, and I know what you're asking me to be, but what do I need? And what do I need? What is it founded on? What is it based on? What are the underlying value systems and principles that I've began to develop that give me this decision-making process when I'm given these choices? I know you're going to ask, well, how am I going to know this? I go back to the beginning. Spend time with you. Spend time with you. If you don't know you, no one else is going to know you. Spend that 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour aside with you. Take off the earphones, put the phone away, move the laptop aside, close the iPad, and spend time with you. Ask yourself critical questions. Talk to you consistently and deeply. Talk to you with the kind of things that are going to help you understand who you are. Talk to others sometimes so that you can gain a bit of insight about who you are from others. But if you're not, quick distraction. The first, I would say 15 minutes before I get out of bed, I have a conversation with me. That me I'm having a conversation with is actually with my God. I am thinking about the day. I am planning the day. I'm asking him questions. He's talking back to me. We're having this interaction. I've been doing this for so long now, for the last 30, 40 years. For so long, it's natural for me. The probably about, I can probably get away with about 15 minutes, 20 minutes before I fall asleep, I have the same conversation constantly. But what I also do is I put in my diary and in my calendar time aside where I have these moments where it's just me and watching something of relevance in terms of motivation, me in watching something from one of the pastors, me every single day. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'm having a conversation. When I'm in the shower, I'm having a conversation. Again, they're habit forming things. How do I know who I am and how was I building up these value principles? Because of that time that I spent with myself. So you've got to be able to ask yourselves these very important questions. And with time, you'll find that it'll get a lot easier and it'll get a lot better. So what have we understood so far? That preparation is going to be the key thing that you're going to need to get the results you're looking for. That's what we talked about in preparation, that you're going to have to do those small little tasks. That this thing that I've talked about is that you're going to have to put time aside in your life, right? Time aside in order to think about who you are, etc., but also to prepare. And those times when you're brushing your teeth 10 minutes before you sleep, 10 minutes or 15 minutes when you wake up, when you're in the shower and you're having those process, that is all preparation. That's all the preparatory process that you're putting into place around what it is that you're going to become, who you are, identifying with who you are, trying to get a good grip on who is Vic, what seed is he? What is he on this earth for? What was he designed to become? That's the kind of thing that you need to be mentally playing with, that massive computer of yours in your head called a brain, and engaging with, because all that information resides there. You're not going to search for something that's non-existent. It's there. It's like your DNA. It's already been imprinted. All you need to do is actually go and reveal it. So what you choose, your choice to spend your preparation time on, is going to be critical. So if you get up in the morning and the first thing you reach for is Facebook, that's a choice. That's a decision that you're making. If you get up in the morning and the first thing that you reach for is Instagram, that's a choice. If you get up in the morning and the first thing that you reach for is ENCA, that's also a choice. So how you spend that time for preparation is going to be critical. To help you make those choices, you need to develop guiding principles, as I've said. Why, folks? Why do you need to do all this? You need to do all this because ultimately the choices that you make coming from the preparation that you're doing is going to be the outcome that you're going to deliver. We go back to this construct. You reap what you sow. What are you sowing? Have you made that decision to be whether you are an apple tree or a banana tree? Have you made that choice? And I'm just using apple and banana, but if you think of all the fruit that is there, just think of all the fruit, oranges and pineapples and whatever. You need to decide, who are you in all that bunch of stuff? You need to decide, who are you going to be? Then you need to start preparing the ground to sow that Vigela at 24 years old. That Vigela at 24 years old had to start sowing something. He had to. So that the Vigela at 52 can look back. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But for you, whether you are 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, each of you have to sow something. And you have to be intentional about this. You have to be deliberate about this. Deliberately intentional, not by accident. You want to walk into a weed 10 years from now and think, where did that come from? Well, you didn't cut it. You didn't cut it 10 years ago. That's why you're walking into the weed. Everything that you see going on with an individual, I want you to look at people, particularly those who are meant to be leading us, and the decisions that they're making. I want you to understand that those are the basis of choice. The basis of choice is a basis of behavior and habit. And it's a basis of behavior and habit that they've been doing for a really, really, really long time. So think about that as you move, as you progress. So let me answer the question. What will the Vic in the 50s say to Vic in the 20s about the choices he made? I'm going to say that Vic in his early and late 20s from about 18 fell, and he fell very, very hard. Vic had a very difficult life up until the age of 6. And Vic was adopted, and he struggled in his teenage life. But there were moments where Vic actually made some really critical decisions, real critical choices. He withstood some of the big things that actually hit him. Right. So when he was dropped from second year, I think he was in his he was in his second year of high school, which in this case would be grade 9 or grade 10, somewhere around there. He was dropped by 2 streams publicly in a school. Not many people, that doesn't happen very, very embarrassing. But what Vic did at the end of that year is that he had a major exam to write, which he wrote and he passed. But then Vic got a little lax. And the last exam for his final years of school, he failed. So when he failed, he fell very hard, because he didn't fail in a way where you just needed to go and repeat a little bit and then add supplement and then off you go. He had to redo everything and start from scratch. But what he did, which was a core part of a guiding principle that he had at the age of 16, was that he said, if I fail once, I'll never fail the same thing again. Never. So what he did is that he spent an inordinate amount of time. He actually isolated himself from the world for 1 solid year. He talked to nobody, hung out with nobody. All he did was go to lectures in school and then come back and study. And when he had failed 2 subjects the year before, he took 4 subjects and got 3 Bs and a D, which was massive, which got him into university. As he went through university, he developed some good guiding principles. Good ones. But he was in varsity. Everybody had fun in varsity. So yeah, he did have fun. And he made quite a few mistakes. But one of the things that, if I look back at young Vic, is that he learned from every mistake that he made. And he will keep on making mistakes, but he will keep on learning from these mistakes. Later in his late 50s, in his late 20s, he started doing something that was really good. He started believing. He started believing and visualizing his belief. An example of this was that Vic would, when he came to South Africa after finishing his university in Scotland, he was unemployed for almost a year. But what he used to do every evening is that he used to take a walk in town and look into the stores of all the furniture shops and imagine his home in terms of having the different types of furniture. He would imagine himself having a bar in his house. He'd imagine himself having a particular sofa. He'd imagine a swimming pool, etc. And I remember Vic doing this. So he started believing not only in himself, but he started believing in what the future could hold. And it was very difficult times that he was doing this in. And that's what he needs to hold on to. He needs to hold on to the belief, because it's not the hard work. Now listen carefully. It's not the hard work only that gets the result. The biggest component is the belief in the hard work that you're putting in. If you're putting in hard work and you don't believe, then you might as well stop, because you're not going to get anywhere with it. And what he did consistently, even with his guiding principle, is that he followed his light. So that's what Vic at 50 would say to Vic at 24. That he made mistakes, he moved on, he developed guiding principles. Although it was difficult times, he started believing, and he continuously followed his light. So Vic would say at 52 to his 24-year-old, I'm happy to be reaping what you sowed back then. I am in harvest time what you sowed back then. But Vic of 60, sow again. But this time, sow more. Sow more, believe more, continue to grow your guiding principles. Those will help your choices in the decisions that you make. Follow your light, believe in yourself, and get to the other end. And I have to get up and say that to myself every morning, because the path I'm on is a real Vic path now. It's not the path of work and, it's like being in a classroom, you've got 20, 30 people, or being in varsity, you've got a whole bunch of people, or you're all doing things together, right? I'm doing this with a nice team of people who we're working together, And my mind has to be truly believing the path that we're on. Vic, last of all, have fun. Have fun. I want at 60 to look back at Vic in the 50s and say, heck, he did all these things, but he was joyous about it. And that's what I mean about fun when I said I'll talk a little bit more about what fun is. What is fun? Fun is being joyous. Fun is being jubilant. Fun is being believing. Fun is actually having a sense of excitement, a sense of anticipation. Fun is not the physical thing of going out and jolling and all that sort of thing. No, fun is actually consistently, even if you're sitting still, having and building up anticipatory levels of excitement, of joy, of thankfulness, of gratefulness. If you can continuously harness those, if you can get up in the morning and say, I am so blessed, I'm so happy, I'm so excited. This day is going to be an amazing day. I know I've got things I need to do. I know I've got mountains I need to climb, but so what? I'll climb them. That is a different choice that you make in terms of your anticipation of life than if you were to do it in an opposite way of getting up in the morning and saying, oh, heck, I've got an exam in a week. Oh, I've got an exam. Yes, you have those things, but don't forget the reason why you need to be joyous, jubilant, excited, and all that is because you are living. You're living. You're living. And life is not meant to be about exams or value add or whatever. It's about you experiencing moments in time where there is just excitement and anticipatory excitement about what is about to come and what is about to happen. The more you do that and work hard, the more the different sowing will happen and the more the different results would happen. And that's me. That's me on choice 2. Questions, answers. Oh, we've got a few more people. Thoughts, ideals, ideas, feelings.
Can I just say, I feel like I've just gone to church. That's how great that was. I was like, ooh, okay. That's the spirit right there.
Man, I didn't even use the word
It was
God.
amazing. Amazing.
That was amazing.
I needed to hear that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the applause. I enjoyed putting this together. Thank you, Timisho, Laken, Kanya. Thank you very much. I enjoyed putting this together, and it is God-filled. It is inspired because when I think about this, I have to think about it from the context of myself, but I also have to think about it from the context of where you are and all the experiences that I've gone through. And by the way, I'm learning myself as I speak. I'm convincing myself. I have to convince myself of this, and that's why I said that, Vic, you gotta have fun. You can't pray for this up until a certain point, and then when it arrives, you spend nothing but being anxious about it. And I applaud you all, regardless of where you are in your stages of studying, of working, of whatever, is that understand that you've reached a certain point and you've got to have an anticipatory excitement about that position that you're in, because you've got here, you've got there. You made it to varsity, you've made it to high school, you've made it to a work environment, you've made it. You made it to grade 12. You never thought you'd make it grade 12 when you're grade 7, I can bet you. But you've made it. So we need to be joyous about what we've achieved and not always be just, speculative about, what's to come, or dreadful about what is to come. We'll get there. We're here to get there. That's all. Why are there 2 stairs? Am I getting 2 for the price of 1?
No, the Wi-Fi is being weird on my phone, so I just logged in with
oh, I
2
see.
devices.
Okay.
So
No problem.
On one, at least I didn't miss out anything.
No problem. Are there any questions? I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, and then I just want to end off with one or 2 other things I just want to show you. Any questions from anyone, anybody, anything they've heard and thought, nah, or anything they've heard and want to add on to, anything that they want to say? here is your time. We move on to another module next time.
Why didn't we start this module like a month ago?
Let's see your face, please.
Because personally, me, I just wrote prelims like a month ago, and I know I studied really hard for them, obviously, but I think because I suffer from anxiety, so I got like really, really nervous, and I don't know, I guess if I had a talk like this, it would have really helped at the time.
No, I hear you, Ste. I'm 52. I still need a talk like this. We're gonna need all the way through the stages. So, yes, look, we could have, and maybe we'll juggle these things up to suit the circumstance and situation. But I just want to say that if there's any learning that I've had, is that the great difficulty about anxiety. You need to think about anxiety. If you hold a glass and you start filling it, right? There's a point where when you start, you can stop. There's a point where you're halfway, you can also stop. But then there's a point where you've probably gone past halfway. Then there's a point where it starts spilling over, right? And the trick with anxiety is to catch it very early, regardless of what it is. And there are methodologies that, and it probably has to be a program literally on its own as to how do you manage anxiety? And when we talk about keep on keeping on, I'll give a little bit of that. But you've got to catch what they call the momentum, because as you remember, anxiety builds up. It's like literally being at the top of the hill with a car, and if you let go of the handbrake, it starts off. And sometimes when it starts off, you can still run to the front and grab it, hold it, and stop, right? So you've got to get to that point where when you're anticipating it building up, you need to have things that you put into place that say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need, whether it means stopping or going to think about something else or going to meditate or going to have a cup of coffee or whatever it is, you have to. But what tends to happen is people use the anxiety as a mechanism to fuel their behavior. And they think, oh, I need to do more, organize more, fetch more. And all that does is just keep raising it. So we will talk about managing, because it's yes, you need it for exams, but you need it for life as well. Too many young people are having cardiovascular issues, really due to anxiety related pressures, and unfortunately, it's a silent killer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it was useful. Hold on to it, use it for the future as well, and just, what I will do, which I haven't done before, because I just, when I was putting this up, I thought about it. I'm going to put a picture of Vic 24 and a picture of Vic now, and in the morning as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to say, hey, you're on the right track. Because sometimes I need to hear the Vic of 24 talk to me. Say, hey, look where you got to, look where you've gone. We forget how far we've come.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else? Still got another sort of 5 minutes or so. Pumalelo, anything from your side you want to add? Anything you think of? You cool? Okay. All right, let me just show you this quickly and then we'll end off. I know there's let me just go all the way down to the bottom here. I just wanted to show you the just for the purposes of yourselves, and if you think that, heck, there should be somebody who comes on boards to any of the programs, or if you want to come on to any of the additional programs, remember we run what we call overviews, right? And the overviews are just, they're free events where if you've got somebody who you think might benefit from this program, you don't want to explain it to them, you must just say to them, listen, just come to the Value Add overview. The next one is on the 11th of September. But for all the programs that I showed you, they're overviews. So if you want to get to know a little bit more about what the program entails. That's what we do with the overviews. And it's important that you, as the participants in the program, are aware of these things that we're doing. So whenever you see overview, just understand it's just a highlighting of what the program is about. And I normally just go through a presentation to let people know what the program is about on each of these. And then also, just a reminder that we also are beginning to run events. Our first event that we ran was in June 16, which was the future of the youth post-COVID. But since then, we've run in August women's events, which have been spectacular. And we will be running another women's event celebrating women in this month in September. But we're also starting an event called Men of Value, but I'll let you know more about that. And that's really for young men, boys, etc., where in the same way as women in these women events are having very specific discussions about the role, the voice, the functionality of women in society, men need to do the same thing, because we are part of a major scourge when it comes to gender-based violence, etc. So there's a real need for men to start stepping up and asking the right questions and also looking at the right solutions. So I just wanted to tell you that about the overviews and the events, so that you understand that these are running, and it's important, since you guys are all members, to be aware of these.